Welcome back to LEGO Wars. Last time out we wrapped up the heats with Popo and Anna getting detonated by Kickflip while Duck found new ways to be a sleep paralysis demon against Kraken. So far we've secured 28 of the 32 slots in the Series 6 bracket with a bunch of surprise additions and pre-series favourites filling out the ranks. However, we have 4 spots left to fill. So it's time for the 14 machines that either didn't perform enough or punched above their weight to secure a lifeline alongside the 2 wildcards from opposite ends to fight for survival. Let's see the lineup tonight.
First, from Carrollton, Texas, seeded number 1 and reigning champions, Slammo.
For the second year in succession, the defending champs find themselves in the last chance saloon, so Slammo will be out to not repeat Tantrum's fate from last series.
From Leamington Spa, Abracagrabra.
The robot that consigned our champs to be here tonight showed some promise, but often found itself overbalancing, which they'll need to mask tonight.
From Cannock and seeded number 14, Bulldog breed.
Bulldog's staying power in the arena saved it enough points to scrape third in the heat, but with a date against the champs on the cards, it could be back to the kennels for this dog.
From Los Angeles, California, Calypso.
Calypso gained the title of the Atlas Killer after being the final bot to eliminate the former international champs and could be a dark horse for making it into the bracket.
From Bristol, Foxic.
It took upsetting Whitehole's perfect run to pull Foxic above Hypershock to make it through, but they have struggled to lift opponents, which could cost them here.
From Norwich and seeded number 4, Ganymede.
Arguably the most annoyed boss in these play-ins, it was Ganymede's last second error against Chomprom that put it down this path, but they have shown great potential and will be favourites to escape.
From Oxford, Harold.
Somehow Harold survived losing its head while others in Heat J lost theirs worse, but it'd be a miracle if the glass cannon makes it any further.
From Glasgow and seeded number 8, Hospitaller.
Hosp was solid in its heat, beating Copperhead and Megalovania, but it did struggle against non-spinners as the old turning issues reared their head once more.
From Titusville, Florida and seeded number 27, Kraken.
The deep sea creature wasn't spectacular in its heat, but there is potential from its now locked in place spinner, so there's hope for a third bracket appearance.
From Kyoto, Japan, Mecha.
The heroes of Heat E went through the ringer as they got torn limb from limb, but they had the last laugh in the sudden death rumble and cannot be underestimated.
From Cowes, Isle of Wight and seeded number 7, Megalodon.
With 8 points on the board, Megalodon are the highest scorers in the play-ins tonight and have shown they are hard to KO, which will be vital at this stage.
From Gloucester, Nibbler.
Our second wildcard tonight proved to be pretty decent in wins against Welder and Chomprom and ran Ganymede close, but with the stacked lineup it might get found out.
From Birmingham and seeded number 3, Quantum.
The second highest seeds here tonight were blighted with thermal gremlins in the heats, but they have shown the ability to get on top of these in the past, so we'll need to show it again.
From Sapporo, Japan, R.O.B.
Another star from the heats has done well to still be in the hunt, but flailing will only get you so far and that lack of ground game could prove costly.
From Great Yarmouth and seeded number 24, Sweepy.
We very nearly had Sweepy pull out after the weapon troubles in the heats, but they have apparently found a fix which promises to bring it back into contention.
From Southampton and seeded number 23, Thumper.
The 23rd seeds put the final nail in the coffin for 23 Red's dreadful campaign, but they have been struggling with spinner issues which they'll need to be managing again tonight. Let's crack on with the first fight tonight as the defending champs Slammo face their fellow seeds Bulldog breed.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1. Activate.
All the heats have been and gone then. We are now into the serious business of LEGO Wars Series 6, starting off with the play-ins. All the fights tonight to decipher the final 4 robots to enter the bracket. And we start off with reigning champion Slammo, who finished 4th in the opening heat of the series. They finished behind the other seed in that heat, the Twins. They also finished behind Abracagrabra and R.O.B. Bulldog breed, they finished 3rd in their heat, behind Chompy 2, the heat winners, and of course Muffin in Heat G, and they'll be hoping if they can try and pull off an almighty upset to knock out the reigning champions, although I have to say Slammo, as much as they did finish 4th in their heat, you've got to say probably the favourites going into tonight as one of the most likely to go through to the bracket. That's a good lift there by Bulldog breed, and so far Slammo struggling with the ground game of Bulldog breed, and Bulldog breed, despite the obvious lack of a ranking comparison, is on top of the moment, but not anymore. Good flick there from Slammo, but damage sustained to Bulldog breed. The entire top has been caved in, and Slammo now surely will be hoping and thinking that they are in the ascendancy. Good driving by Slammo in underneath Bulldog Breed, pushes them against the arena sidewall. Bulldog Breed, that floor at the front, the wedge shape is no longer ground scraping, certainly. And in underneath goes Slammo. Once again, it's a good lift from Slammo, and they've got hold of Bulldog Breed here. It was a positive start for the Bulldog, but Slammo is the one that's going to progress. The reigning champions go through to the next round of the play-ins. A bit of an early scare, it has to be said, for the reigning champion Slammo here. I think they were certainly not expecting Bulldog Breed to be as aggressive and as very ground scraping as it was in the early stages of the fight. Good lift as well there from Bulldog Breed, showing that they have got that dog in them still. But Slammo in the end, once they turned on the style and the control, they were the ones in the ascendancy. There was no way back really for Bulldog Breed once this happened. Pit open, and dangled down the pit went Bulldog Breed.
That's more like it from the champs as Slammo takes their first stride towards the bracket. Let's see if their fellow seed Sweepy can follow suit as they face Calypso.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
Our next match of the night then, two horizontal spinners, Sweepy, who finished third in the fever dream that was Heat C. Of course, behind, huge impact there behind R.O.B, Blade and Bricker brother Calypso, finishing behind Tantrum, the former champions, and Ripperoni in their Heat I. But so far, you'd have to say that is the damage power we were hoping to see from Sweepy, and we're finally starting to see it in the play-in stage of the competition. And Calypso has been completely torn apart here, and I think that is the end of the rookie run for Calypso. There's no hope left for Calypso. They're upside down, they're shredded to pieces, and I think their first series of LEGO Wars ends at the hands of Sweepy. Sweepy, we were hoping to see the big weapon come into play. It struggled so much during the heats, but it's recovered just in time for a decent run in the play-ins. Sweepy takes a knockout victory in the first round of the play-ins. Calypso, they are eliminated, and it's a shame to see the rookies go home. Calypso's game plan was pretty much over from the word activate, wasn't it? That huge impact at the start, massively compromising the chassis integrity, and from then on in, it was only going to end in one way, really, wasn't it, for Calypso, the rookie machine. Sweepy, we finally get to see the big power of that horizontal spinner come into play, and they shredded their opponents, Calypso, turned themselves over and beat themselves on their back. Sweepy through to the next round.
That might be one of Sweepy's best displays in a while as they tore Calypso apart. We might need another body bag in the arena as R.O.B has to find a way past Megalodon.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
Off we go then for our third fight of the night, and R.O.B holding his hands towards the sky, hoping maybe for some divine intervention in this match, because they're going to need something against the 7th seeds Megalodon. Megalodon finishing on 8 points in its heat, which in most other heats would have been more than enough to get them through in the top 2 placings. Not to be in Heat D, though. They finished behind Blow in second and Project Shadow, the heat winners of Heat D. Heat H was where R.O.B resided. They finished third in that heat on 6 points behind Sir Lancer Frog and Mr. Waffle. So let's see if they can progress any further here. It's going to be a big ask against Megalodon. The 7th seeds finishing in the top 8 last series, their third appearance in LEGO Wars. R.O.B in its rookie year has done really, really well to get to this stage of the competition and is almost certainly a fan favourite already. You'd love to see it in the arena, those big swinging hammers, such an unorthodox and unusual design, but it is quite effective, and it does take a hit or two before succumbing, doesn't it, R.O.B? It's quite bulky. I think that could stand it in good stead here against Megalodon. Megalodon's got that drum up to speed, though. We know how dangerous that can be, but down comes the hammer of R.O.B on top of the drum. They're not scared to get down and dirty, are they, R.O.B? Down comes the hammer over and over again, scoring points all the while. Megalodon retreats to the middle of the arena. Can they come back on the attack? They can, and try and cause more damage to R.O.B, the robotic operating buddy. Damage has certainly been sustained by R.O.B, but it's still functioning quite happily at the moment, although will that change as the fight progresses? More damage accrued by R.O.B. The chassis now all twisted and bent and buckled as Megalodon gets to work, and more damage sustained by R.O.B, and that looked a bit more terminal, didn't it, because the wheel moved a lot there. I wonder how much traction they've now got on the arena floor. Still looking pretty good at the moment. Now they're not, they're kind of high centering themselves on their own chassis, they're beaching themselves, and as this fight goes on and more damage accrues, Megalodon will rise into the ascendancy. R.O.B, they know they're in a war of attrition here. They need to get the fight done sooner rather than later, but at the moment it's just looking more and more like Megalodon will progress to the next round of the play-ins, and I think deservedly so. They've been mighty thus far. And you have to say, R.O.B, despite a brave effort against the 7th seeds, they're looking a little bit worse for wear now. The chassis all split, the drive compromised on R.O.B. It's not looking good for R.O.B now. They're pinned into the corner. The wheel is now off the floor. There is no drive on R.O.B. And I think the robotic operating buddy, I think this is the last fight we're going to see them in LEGO Wars Series 6. They're being counted down and counted out. It's been a valiant effort in this match against Megalodon, but Megalodon too strong in the end. They turned on the style, and the 7th seeds will progress to the next round of the play-ins. But a valiant effort from R.O.B, who go home in all kinds of pieces on the arena floor. A very brave and valiant effort, as I said, from R.O.B, but in the end, Megalodon too strong with that huge drum spinner at the front. And you have to say, despite everything, you know, Megalodon, I think, are probably one of the favourites again to qualify from the play-ins tonight. It wouldn't shock me to see them going quite far in the bracket as well. You do get a bit of an idea about how strong they could be as we get to the later stage of the competition. R.O.B not up to standard, but Megalodon certainly is. Ones to watch out for, I feel.
A brave but ultimately fruitless performance from R.O.B as Megalodon marches on to the deciding round as we conclude the first half of the play-ins with Hospitaller against Nibbler.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
Away we go then for our 4th fight of the night. Nibbler, our second wildcard entry for this series. They finished 4th place in Heat M on 6 points. They finished very strongly, it has to be said, in that heat, and very much earned their spot, I feel, in the play-ins episode. We are, you know, very complimentary of their design and their commitment to the bit of causing carnage and devastation in the arena, most of the time against their own, you know, better judgment. And they take on Hospitaller, a very much opposite end of the spectrum in terms of excitement, I would say, in the arena, but I would say Hospitaller very consistent in the arena at the same time. The 8th seeds, they finished in 3rd place of Heat K, behind Antithesis and Panic Attack. So, very different styles of robot. One, pure chaos and destruction. The other one, slow, methodical, but nonetheless effective in the arena. Hospitaller opening the pit button. They are thinking they can try and push Nibbler down the pit, but Nibbler, so far, staying out of trouble. Over by the arena spikes, trying to get a good lift there is Hospitaller. Doesn't quite get it. Nibbler gets away from that corner, backs into Hospitaller, pins them against the arena sidewall. Can they bring that weapon into play? The destructive horizontal spinner on Nibbler has claimed victim throughout the series. It's got 2 wins in its heat, of course, a knockout victory included in that. Will it be enough here to get past Hospitaller, who started strongly in the heat and kind of heated out towards the end? We'll have to wait and see. Hospitaller, as we know, known to suffer with thermal cutout issues. Weapon still happily spinning though on Nibbler at the moment, trying to bring it into play onto Hospitaller. Like I said before the series started, 8 seeds have done well to get to this stage again, but again, for a top 8 robot from last series, you'd be expecting more, wouldn't you, from Hospitaller? And thus far, we haven't really seen a big Hospitaller performance in this fight, and Nibbler is the one, I would say, being more aggressive and certainly more effective usage of the weaponry, and indeed probably better controlled as well. Staying out of trouble, staying away from the wedge of Hospitaller. Hospitaller tries and slows them down, but too quick around the arena floor is Nibbler, and maybe a little bit of compromisation on the weapon there of Hospitaller. No, still going. But Nibbler doing very well to stay out of trouble. They opened the pit, didn't they, Hospitaller, thinking, oh, we'll just push them down the pit, but they haven't been able to do so yet. And Nibbler doing very well to stay out of trouble. Of course, back-to-back wins against Weldorem and Chomprom saw them get to 6 points in the end in that heat, in Heat M. At the moment, doing a pretty decent job on Hospitaller as well. The Hospitaller here have slowed right down towards the end of the fight. They're down to the last 10 seconds. It's not been a vintage Hospitaller performance at all. And I think Nibbler here can say they've done a very, very decent job at holding the seeds back, and I think have done just about enough, despite the late hit and the late damage, to go through. But we'll have to wait and see. The judges will have to decide. Hospitaller, I felt, did do a decent job at the start, maybe, of keeping Nibbler at bay, but Nibbler actually really grew into this fight. I think maybe the occasion overawed them at the start, but the 8 seeds didn't really keep them under a leash for very long. Nibbler were able to keep hitting Hospitaller over and over again, were able to outmaneuver them, outthink them, and really just outdrive them, which is a surprise, really. The 8 seeds here in big trouble. Will the judges decide the same thing?
And the winner by unanimous decision is Nibbler. The 8th seeds have fallen as Nibbler ensures both wildcards remain in the running for those remaining bracket spots. Over on the second half of this round, we've got 2 veteran spinners duking it out for a place in the deciding round with Mecha Bowser and Thumper.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1. Activate.
Away we go then for our 5th fight of the night, and we see 23rd seed Thumper taking on Mecha Bowser. Of course, Mecha Bowser in their Heat E. They finished behind Grab, Crab and Octus, but were able to knock out the seeds, of course. Do you remember in the last chance rumble? Those 3 went into the arena together, and this time around they've got drawn against Thumper, who came 3rd in their heat behind Luchador and Iron Mingo. Of course, they both finished on 5 points in their heat, and thus far you have to say Thumper is probably on top here against Mecha Bowser, although it is pretty even Stevens at the moment. Damage sustained by both in this fight thus far. Bits and pieces of the Mecha Bowser spinner coming off, they won't mind that. Thumper, their front end has sustained some damage as well. One of the bracing forks have come off at the front. Look, can you see? Not ideal at the moment for Mecha Bowser or Thumper, but thus far you'd probably say even Stevens between the two. Mecha Bowser, more experience, of course, have finished 4th in the past in LEGO Wars, all the way back, if you remember, back to Series 2. Thumper, their best run was the bracket last series, of course, where they were defeated by Slammo. Slammo in the episode tonight, so there's a non-zero chance that those two could fight each other in the next round, should Thumper get through, and well, damage sustained there by Mecha Bowser. That's a little bit more crucial than the pyramids coming off the spinner. Mecha Bowser starting to be pulled apart now by Thumper. Thumper trying to get that drum back up to speed again, and does so. Seems to be having to do that more often. Reverse into the wall and restart the weapon. That is a known fault of the robot. It is starting to struggle a little bit in its age, and that weapon is starting to die more and more often. But Thumper here having a great effort of trying to take Mecha Bowser down, and so far you'd have to say the more structural damage certainly is to Mecha Bowser. Thumper, though, sans the weapon currently. And you'd have to say, wow, Mecha Bowser, all of their components are still running. Well, as is Thumper's now. Thumper's drum back up to speed again, so judges can't count that against them, and the weapon effectiveness category is so crucial with a judge's decision looming. Mecha Bowser up to speed again, going face to face with Thumper. They probably want to bring that weapon into play once more. They do so. Certainly more Mecha Bowser debris around the arena floor than there is Thumper, although Thumper aren't without injury as well. Close match between these two. The experience of Mecha Bowser, the enthusiasm of Thumper, and certainly the more hyperactive machine of the two is Thumper. Mecha Bowser hobbling and bobbling along. Still very much in the fight, though. It's been their best series in quite a few years, Mecha Bowser. We're going to go to time between the two, or are we? Because Thumper went for the pit button. Can they get Mecha Bowser in the nick of time? We've got a few seconds left on the clock. Time is running out. That's a huge shot at the end, though. Look at that. The damage to Thumper right at the death. The drum splitting. We go to time between the two and a judge's decision. A good back and forth between these two, and it has to be said, a pretty nervy affair at the same time as well. Both of these two know that at this stage of the competition there is no room for mistakes. It's either win or you go home. Mecha Bowser, I feel, took the more structural damage throughout the fight, and Thumper were able to land more shots of meaningful damage to the actual chassis of the robot, but the late shots from Mecha Bowser kept them in the fight, and the drum splitting at the end could be decisive.
And the winner by split decision is Thumper. A close scare for the Seeds, but they hold on to end Mecha Bowser's battling run for this series. Meanwhile, Ganymede is on the warpath to get out of the play-ins against the glass cannon of Harold.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1. Activate.
Next fight then sees Harold, who finished 3rd in Heat J. They finished behind Polymorph and Clodomizer on 6 points. Ganymede, of course, our 4th seeds for this series. Oh, but there goes the weapon of Harold almost immediately. It's a bit of a surprise to see Ganymede in this position. Like I said, they are the 4th seeds, but they finished 3rd in their heat behind Shatterstar and the surprise package that was Chomp Romp. But they're going to progress through to the next round here because Harold is turned upside down and it is weaponless and it is all over for Harold. But it has to be said, maybe a bullet dodged for Ganymede because that weapon has really struggled to get going. Gets going now. It may be too little too late, but they've won the fight. Harold defeated. Ganymede survives a scare to go through to the next round. Certainly a few sweaty palms when we saw the initial struggles of Ganymede's weapon failing to spin up, but as soon as the weapon came off of Harold, I mean, the fight was basically over in their favour, wasn't it? Let's face it, there it goes again and again with several different angles as well to see it beautifully. Ganymede able to survive that initial impact there, turn their opponents over and eventually win the fight.
You know, this fight really brings into question just how cursed Heat J really was, but either way, Harold crashes out and Ganymede is through to the next round to face Megalodon as we move on to the penultimate fight of this round between Kraken and Foxic.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1. Activate.
Off we go then for our penultimate first round fight of the play-ins. We see Kraken, the number 27 seeds for LEGO World Series 6, taking on rookies Foxic. Kraken, of course, we saw last week finishing 3rd in Heat N behind Cow Tools and Duck. Foxic we saw in Heat F, where they finished 3rd place behind Dietor and, of course, the very, very impressive White Hole, who they were the only ones who were able to beat White Hole, which is very impressive from Foxic, but will it be enough to get them a spot in the next round of the play-in? So far, the evidence of this, you'd say, maybe damage sustained to Kraken, although that's mostly self-inflicted, and a wheel off of Foxic as well, which is also crucial to note. They still have the ability to drive on 3 wheels, and of course the kind of rim that's been left on the wheel as well. That's a good lift from Foxic. It doesn't quite get Kraken over though, but they do have the potential here to kind of outlast and wall their way to victory. It is a low ground clearance at the front of Foxic. We've seen how good Foxic can be in teeth. They did very well against White Hole, but Kraken, a different kind of opponent, really going to be a tricky ask to beat Kraken, I feel, and more damage sustained there by Foxic. Good push that back though on Kraken. Kraken pinned against the arena side wall, has already lost a drive chain on one side of the robot, so it is down to 3-wheel drive at the moment, although that being said, it doesn't really need the drive power at the moment. Foxic in control. Bits and pieces falling off of Kraken by the moment. More damage sustained as well. Kraken here, not having it all their own way here. The experience of Kraken, formerly runners-up of LEGO Wars. There goes the pit though! And Foxic caught in a fox trap. And Kraken showed their experience there and will progress through to the next round of the play-ins. Foxic, they go home. I think it's fair to say in the early exchanges of this fight, it was pretty even Stevens, maybe even Foxic on top. Yes, they lost the wheel in this corner, but I felt like they were doing as good a job as anyone could have done really against Kraken. They stayed out of trouble for the most part. They were using the lifter very well to unsettle Kraken. And, you know, they were able to deflect the big spinner at the front. But a bit of naive driving, Kraken took advantage.
The classic hovering over the pit error takes Foxic out of the running, leaving just one spot left to resolve this round between Abracagrabra and the 3rd seed's Quantum.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1. Activate.
Our final match of the first round of the play-ins then is Quantum, the 3rd seeds, taking on Abracagrabra, the rookies. Of course, these two were in the very first heats of the series. Heat A for Abracagrabra, they finished in 3rd place there, ahead of Slammo, who we've already seen tonight on Countback. Of course, they beat Slammo, but they also didn't beat, they were unable, to beat the twins and R.O.B, and they were picked into 3rd place. Quantum, they had a pretty tough time in their heat. They finished in 3rd place in their heat as well, where they were defeated into 3rd by Bop and Monsoon. So Quantum will be hoping for a bit of retribution in this match, and thus far you'd have to say much more like it from Quantum. They're on the attack, they're being aggressive, and they're holding the front end there of Abracagrabra. Good control by Quantum, and Abra really struggling to get away now. Good driving here from Quantum. They've hit the pit button. Can they guide Abracagrabra towards the pit? Of course, they can't hold on for too long, and they now release Abracagrabra. But is it going to be enough for Abracagrabra to come back into this fight? Quantum, we know how controlled and effective they can be at their very best. Rookies, of course, for this series, Abracagrabra, they're coming up against some really stern opposition throughout the series. Of course, they fought the reigning champions, of course, and beat them, which is incredible and, should be commended for it. But Quantum here, also very, very strong. That's a good lift from Abracagrabra, but it doesn't really help either of them. Good attempt, though, from Abracagrabra to try and get some points back on the board. Quantum, I'd say, still just about on top at the moment. The battle for low ground, crucial between these two, and thus far, I'd have to say, Quantum in the ascendancy in that particular category, pushing Abracagrabra into the corner. They get away now. Quantum seems to be struggling a little bit for thermal cutout once again. We saw this in the heat and they're really struggling now. Look at that. The jaws at the top. Labour up and down, not really happy with things at the moment. Abracagrabra, though, towards the pit, and they've kind of boxed themselves into the corner there. The pit's very much a threat now to Abracagrabra, especially when they dip two wheels over like that. And Quantum here have absolutely, hoodwinked it here because they were struggling for drive. Abracagrabra pit themselves and Quantum go through to the next round. Abracagrabra overbalancing several times in this fight really didn't help their cause, but I still think they basically threw the fight here because Quantum were really struggling towards the end with thermal cutout issues. We saw that during their heat as well. Despite the early impressive control by Quantum, we did see Abracagrabra slowly grow into the fight, and as I said, the thermal cutout really was hampering Quantum, but they boxed themselves into a corner, and Quantum somehow go through.
Ambra's party trick costs it another scalp this series as they drop down the pit and out, leaving us with 8 machines still in the running to claim those last 4 spots. We still have the 4 highest seeds in the play-ins tonight with a shout of a space, but we're going to lose one in the first fight of this deciding round as we have a similar style bot clash between Ganymede and Megalodon.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1. Activate.
So one fight remains between these two and a spot in the bracket. We have Megalodon and Ganymede, seed 7 and seed 4 before the series started, but at this stage still in the play-ins. They both, of course, winning in their first round matches. Let's not forget Megalodon knocked out R.O.B and Ganymede knocked out Harold. 2 different calibers of opponent to each other, certainly. Years gone by, this would have been a very highly rated match. Of course, both these two in the top 8 of LEGO Wars last time around. Can either of them scale such heights this time around? Remains to be seen, but it seems to be Megalodon that seems to be the predator, and Ganymede turning prey. 2 very similar robots in terms of weapon style, but different ways of accumulating and dishing out damage, and thus far you'd have to say Megalodon just about on top, winning in the exchanges thus far with Ganymede. Megalodon goes for the pit button, doesn't get the pit to activate there. Try again, Megalodon, and the pit doesn't quite go down a second time or a third time. The arena budget cuts are being clearly seen there. Megalodon and Ganymede go weapon to weapon. Little in the way of separating these two thus far. You have to say Megalodon maybe marginally on top after the initial aggression, but Ganymede is slowly coming into the fight, slowly but surely, and another good shot there from Ganymede, the 4th seed, of course, for LEGO Wars Series 6. A semi-finalist last time around, finishing 3rd place in Heat M. And can they make it a step further, get back into the bracket here? A tough opponent in Megalodon standing between them and the bracket this time. Ganymede pushes back. Tense matchup this one. 2 heavy hitters vying for a spot in our round of 32. Says quite a lot about the strength and depth of the quality of the heat, really, doesn't it? Ganymede being chased around by Megalodon, and Megalodon once again get a good shot on the rear end of Ganymede. Back and forth between the two. Thus far, you'd probably, I don't know, maybe the tide of the fight has changed, and look at that, Megalodon's weapon has now stopped, and that could be crucial in the eyes of the judges should we get to that point, because all of Ganymede's systems are still working, but Megalodon has lost the weapon by all accounts, and that could be crucial. Ganymede stuck on the front end of Megalodon, Megalodon trying to push Ganymede towards the pit, and they're going to do so here, and they're on the lip of the pit, and Ganymede just about gets away. Oh my goodness, I thought they were heading down the pit there. Maybe they still will. Ganymede push back, And Megalodon has got them caught on the pit, but can they get out in time? Ganymede stuck on the pit, they can't get away. Can Megalodon get a quick finish here? Megalodon stuck, and there goes Ganymede down the pit. The 4 seeds eliminated, and Megalodon grabs victory from the jaws of defeat. A tense and close matchup between these two, but what a fight they gave us. The 4 seeds and the 7 seeds, Ganymede and Megalodon. It seemed to be in the early knock-ins that Megalodon was on top. Ganymede fought back. We saw the weapon fail on Megalodon around about this stage here. Look, where that big impact happens and there's no more weapon from then on in from Megalodon. But poor driving from Ganymede got themselves stuck in the pit and caught out by the pit. And eventually the pit went down.
For a good while it looked like the 4th seeds would be victorious, but Megalodon held on to consign Ganymede down the pit as they're again left to rue that error in the heats. Megalodon are in the bracket though for the 3rd series running, and they'll be joined by either Kraken or Nibbler in our next bout.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1. Activate.
That's one upset place already decided in the play-ins. Will we see another one here? Kraken, you'd probably say, are the favourites with their experience, but straight away there, the weapon of Nibbler has chewed the front end of Kraken to pieces. Look at that! Major damage already sustained by the 27 seeds Kraken. We know that Nibbler have got a potential shocker in that they beat the 8 seeds Hospitaler in the last round, and they're already setting about destroying Kraken. Look! That drive chain has been ripped away already, the side panel ripped away already, and Kraken here definitely on the backward step, and Nibbler, the rookies, having a phenomenal run in LEGO Wars Series 6. They really are. They were 4th place in the penultimate heat of the series. They clawed their way into the play-ins as a wild card, as one of the highest scoring 4th places of the series. Kraken, of course, they finished 3rd in Heat N, the final heat of the series, on 6 points. Nibbler, of course, also got 6 points in their respective heat, but so far, you have to say Nibbler is turning out to be one of the big surprises of the night, and is doing very, very well here. And Kraken, the former runners-up of LEGO Wars back in Series 4, under pressure against the rookies. Kraken, what can they do to stem the flow of the fight? You'd have to say, definitely Nibbler on top of them. They are stuck on the arena spikes at the moment. Can they get away from there? They can, in the nick of time, I would say as well. Kraken now responds well by pinning Nibbler against the arena side wall. Nibbler gets away. Tries to go back on the attack again, but good driving there by Kraken. Good control by Kraken, and Nibbler almost backed into the pit, but they were pushed back into the pit by Kraken. A great piece of driving and good nous and know-how there from the former runners-up to go through to the bracket. In the opening exchanges of the fight, you'd have to say Nibbler were the ones in the ascendancy. Kraken didn't really have an answer for that horizontal spinner for the first minute or so of the fight. Eventually they did get a bit of a foothold in said fight, but no, it was Nibbler who were the ones in the ascendancy, but poor control, or maybe it was just good control and good know-how from Kraken. Pacing themselves well, they eventually got them boxed against the arena sidewall there and eventually cornered by the pit before pushing them down.
An unlucky end for the rookies as Kraken continues its run of always making the bracket. There's just 2 spots left to fill now and 2 rematches to boot too, the first of which sees Sweepy face Quantum. It was at the hands of Quantum last year where Sweepy fell to its latest defeat in the round of 32 as the Crusher survived a barrage of hits to shuffle the Shuffler down the pit and out. Both machines have always made the bracket, but one is breaking that record tonight, so let's see who will be victorious.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1. Activate.
Off we go then for our penultimate fight of the night. The 3rd seed Quantum versus the 24th seed Sweepy. This is of course a rematch from the last series we saw. Quantum come on top of that occasion. They push Sweepy down the pit and they're going to have to hope for some similar miracle here because their head has been completely shredded and destroyed by Sweepy. Like I said earlier on, we've been waiting to see that Sweepy weapon working the way that they intended, and my goodness is it now. But that's good control by Quantum. They're forcing Sweepy into the screws. Can they cause more agony for Sweepy? Good control by Quantum, pushes it back into that screws corner once again, but Sweepy inevitably comes back and escapes the corner, and Quantum here is looking very slow and sluggish, and more damage sustained by the 3rd seeds. Sweepy looking for revenge, and look how slow Quantum is here. Quantum really struggling this series with the thermal cutout issues. They were maybe fortunate to get through the heat. You know, it was a laboured third place, let's face it, from the third seeds. But in this match here, they are being absolutely exposed by Sweepy, and Quantum is stopped once again. They are really, really struggling with thermal cutout in the arena now. And Sweepy up to speed again. In comes the big bar spinner and hits the front end of Quantum. Is there anything Quantum can do? They're going to try and push them down the pit. I suppose that's their only tactic at this stage, but they just don't have the drive power, do they? Especially with the thermal cutout issues that they're facing. And Quantum here, backing up and like slowly manoeuvring around the arena, but it's not enough. They're being counted down and out, and they've been counted down and out, and that is the end of Quantum's run in LEGO World Series 6. Sweepy go through to the bracket. In some ways, I feel like Quantum in this fight is kind of a wounded animal being put out of its misery, because it has not been the Quantum of old all series, has it? Let's face it, the thermal cutout issues have really plagued it throughout, but take nothing away from Sweepy here. They were absolutely at their best. That weapon finally delivering the shots that we know it's capable of. And it'll be Sweepy progressing to the bracket once again. Quantum, the third seed, heavily beaten here. Through goes Sweepy.
It's the end of the line for Quantum as Sweepy avenges their loss from a year ago to batter the third seeds into submission. That leaves us with one spot left to fill and two foes very familiar with each other from last series. Thumper's round of 32 clash with Slammo was one of the infamous fights of the series, as the latter finally delivered a successful suplex on the way to a dominant victory that kickstarted its campaign for the title. With bracket qualification on the line, it'll be fascinating to see who will claim that final spot.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
31 places in the LEGO Wars Series 6 bracket have been decided. One more to go. Will it be Slammo, our reigning champions, or our 23rd seeds? Thumper, of course, these two fought in the round of 32 last time around. Slammo was the victor on that occasion. Surely, history will simply repeat itself. Slammo have improved since then, they say. Thumper, largely the same, have a few more technical gremlins, an older machine in the field as well. But they still have the drum spinner, and they still have a chance of winning LEGO World Series 6 as things stand. Good lift there from Slammo. On the rear end goes Thumper. Thumper crashes back down to earth once again, and more damage sustained there by Slammo. Good start from Thumper, you'd have to say, all things considered, but now look, Slammo exposing that ground clearance at the front of Thumper. Thumper gets away from the arena spikes and bumps into the arena wall to get that drum spinner back going again, but once again they're just met by Slammo and those lifting forks, and Thumper now stuck against the arena side wall. They, of course, have to bump into the wall to get that drum spinner going, and down goes the pit, activated by Slammo. The reigning champions here can smell blood. Up and over goes Thumper once again. Thumper lands back right side up now. Missing there with the lift was Slammo. Back into pursuit once again go the reigning champions, and in underneath Thumper they go, the 23rd seed under pressure. We've not seen the big suplex that we saw last time thus far. Slammo though pinning down Thumper and pushing it towards the pit, and great driving from Slammo, a champion's drive, and Slammo will complete our bracket places for LEGO Wars Series 6. A valiant effort, has to be said, from Thumper, and they definitely did a better job this time around against Slammo, but Slammo is just a hard counter to this robot, isn't it? It's a good, efficient control, but using its weaponry to its maximum, able to exploit the ground clearance at the front and the rear, and just absolutely bullying Thumper. As soon as they got a foothold in the fight, there was only ever going to be one winner. Great control here, pinning Thumper down and pushing them down into the pit.
They didn't quite get the suplex this time, but the champs have done what they needed to do to secure that final spot in the Series 6 bracket. It's been a superb night of fighting in the arena as we bid adieu to 12 bots that came up short this series, but for Megalodon, Kraken, Sweepy and Slammo, their story continues as they secure those last spots in the bracket. That's all from us tonight, but join us next time when we begin the round of 32 for Series 6. For now though, I've been your host David Smeg, and we'll see you in the next one. Yeah, it is.
Oh, Jesus. I've been hit, man down.
Have you got insurance in this event?
Never.
Oh, there goes the other train.
It's like battle box with nightmare in the arena.